Welcome to the Women Leaders Association Daily Member Podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. I'm your host, Leann Kirkland. And in each Daily Member Podcast, we will pick out a great speaker from one of our meetings that we thought you would enjoy. You can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or find a networking group near you, or if you just need access to the membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Now let's tune in for this incredible message.
Well, hi everyone. I'm very excited to get the opportunity to kick things off today. It looks like it's going to be a really exciting and transformational afternoon. I'm Leann Walsh. I'm a partner in the labor, employment, and workplace safety practice of the global law firm K&L Gates. K&L Gates is one of the largest law firms in the world. It has more than 45 offices across 5 continents, and I'm based out of the Raleigh office. As a labor and employment attorney, my practice is pretty wide-ranging. I regularly counsel business clients on employment issues. I represent employers in employment-related litigation matters. I conduct internal investigations regarding workplace issues on behalf of clients, and I provide employment law specialist assistance in mergers and acquisition transactions. So that's just a little bit of background about me. And then for the topic today, I'm going to be talking with you about becoming the authentic leader you envision. So go to the next slide. Okay, so to start, I'm going to do a little bit more about who am I and who am I not, right? Especially I think this is important given our topic today about becoming an authentic leader. So first, I am not a doctor. I'm not, right? I'm an attorney. Medical things were not for me. That was very clear early on. So I'm not a mental health professional or a professional coach. Hopefully I will have a few helpful words of wisdom and at least some interesting questions for you all to reflect on. But just by me speaking here, I'm no means, enlightened or arrived or somebody who's figured it all out. I'm here to learn and grow just like all the rest of you. And I am definitely not done learning and growing. So I'm just as excited for today. I believe life is a journey of personal growth and we are never finished. So I'm excited to be on this journey with you. So then a quick notes on who I am. And I'm going to say kind of pieces of who I am because I don't think any one aspect of my life defines who I am. It's always been really important to me that my personal identity and self-worth comes from within and not from any particular job title or social status. So I was me before I was an attorney, before I became a partner, before I became a mother, right? These are all pieces of who I am that do shape my life a lot at the moment. So I want to share those with you. But again, there's an inner me, right, that's been consistent throughout my life. So in addition to my work, I'm married to my husband. We have 2 wonderful young daughters. One is 5 and one is actually turning 8 today. So happy birthday to my daughter, Bailey. I'm also a friend and a mentor to many other wonderful people in my life. I've served as a leader in many different capacities. I led on corporate boards, including as chair. I've been on firm committees. So those are just several different angles of kind of who I am and who I'm not. So personally, especially since the pandemic, I'll say, I find TV news headlines to be so negative and alarmist that they're almost comical. So just like NBC Nightly News does every evening, I'm going to spend our time walking through several pieces of bad news, and then I'll end up with one really good piece of good news, just like they do on the evening. Okay, so bad headline number 1. You don't know who you are, and you're also a liar. So by this, I mean to reiterate the point that our life is a journey, is a process of self-discovery, and some of what we have told ourselves is true about ourselves honestly isn't. So before we jump all the way into that, I thought it'd be helpful to look at what it means to be authentic, since the topic today is becoming the authentic leader you envision. So I checked, just curious myself, kind of how it would be defined. And authentic, Webster Dictionary, has a couple of different meanings, all of which I found to be quite deep as I was thinking through this topic and what I wanted to share with you. So first, the dictionary said, Authentic means to be worthy of acceptance or belief as confirming to or based on fact. So to me, I think a great takeaway here is that authenticness comes from partly your self-worth. Your self-worth is inherent and it's real. So part of being authentic is really recognizing and accepting that. Next, authentic means not false or imitation, real, actual. So we all know we're not being authentic when we're acting and being fake. We're all familiar with that feeling. It feels very unnatural, or as my kids would say, it feels yucky when you're being fake and not true to yourself. So that would be not being authentic. Third, it means true to one's own personality, spirit, and character. So you're true to yourself, including your personality, your heart, and your moral character and compass. Fourth, it means conforming to an original so as to reproduce essential features, made or done the same way as an original. From a faith perspective, this resonated with me deepest of all. If your beliefs include that you're made in the image of your creator, then being authentic, I think, aligns with that belief. But regardless of what you believe, being authentic means conforming to your own original uniqueness. So in a world of 8 billion people, there's only one you, right? You are a limited, special edition, one of a kind, never going to happen again, never happened before. And so being authentic is really understanding that about yourself and embracing it. Okay, so continuing with bad headline of we don't know. So as I mentioned, some of what we believe about ourselves honestly isn't true. We can be conditioned by our society, culture, norms, era in history, family, friends, social networks, workplaces. It's normal to accept some messages we get from those around us as the truth to such an extent that we might not even know what's happening. Those false beliefs are sometimes referred to as limiting beliefs, as they usually result in us thinking and acting smaller and out of line with who we are. If you're not familiar with this phrase, a limiting belief is a thought or state of mind that you think is the absolute truth and stops you from doing certain things. The beliefs don't always have to be about yourself either. They could be about how the world works, ideas, or how you interact with people. So to provide some kind of examples for me personally, some limiting beliefs I've had to work through, and I'm still working through, and nerdy, I'm not athletic, I'm not good at math, I'm unsophisticated at finances, all these like messages and things I've received in my life and at some points have thought must be true or inherent, and I have learned over time they're not. It's also important to remember that we may have mistaken beliefs about ourselves because we ourselves have changed. We're not static, right? Something could be true about you in the past, but you could have outgrown whatever that facet was of your personality or character. Scientifically, one thing that's helped me kind of grasp this at a more physical level, and this will either resonate with you or won't make any sense at all, but maybe for some people, I'm kind of like a mental person and wanting to visualize it. So one thing that's helped me was learning scientifically that the human body replaces itself on a cellular level roughly once every decade. So there's you that always stays true, but literally the entire cells of your body, all of the cells that you have replace itself about every decade. So you are constantly being, reborn and recreated. And there's still an inner you though that stays true. So that fact has just always really resonated with me in understanding that you can continue to grow and change, and we're going to be transforming throughout the course of our lives. Okay, so I wanted to put together a list of questions that you could consider to help you reflect on the initial question of who are you and whether you may be telling yourself things about yourself that are false. I strongly recommend journaling through the answers. I find I make the most meaningful self-discoveries and they tend to stick a little better if I write out my thinking. So here's some things you can kind of think through when you've got time. Who are you not? Who were you 10 years ago? Who were you 20 years ago? What changes do you see? What has remained the same? A powerful one, another question that I've learned, and I think the power increases as you age and have more life experience, is what will you no longer tolerate? How has that changed over time? I've learned, as I think many people have, that the limits of what we tolerate get narrower over time. A nice part about aging is you feel more empowered and more educated to decide what you will and will not continue to accept in your life. So examples for me personally here would be toxic, negative behaviors, passive aggressive behaviors or communication styles, whether that's from family or friends, pressure to attend social events I don't want to attend, or if I feel like I'm honestly just too tired or don't have time to attend, shaming for being other. Those are all things I will not accept anymore. Some additional questions that you can think through are, when you were a child, how did people describe you? And you can think, how have you internalized some of that? Was it true? Was it not true? That could be positive or negative, but just reflecting back, because some of those early messages we receive can shape us a lot, whether we realize it or not. Another good one for reflection is, what are you afraid of right now? I know when I'm feeling anxious or kind of ruminating over something, and it can be hard for me to mentally move on, for I'm worried a little bit incessantly about something going on in my life, that this question of what am I really afraid of can be helpful. And then also, how about, when and where do you feel out of place? Like an imposter or like a child in a room full of adults. I suspect we've all had this feeling, that real experience you get where you feel like you're just a kid in a room full of grown-ups and no one's figured out yet that you're just a kid who snuck in. Perhaps you're even feeling that way today, participating in the Triangle Women Leaders Forum, asking yourself how and where you fit in here. And if you'd have that thought, I'd recommend dig into that, really reflect on where it's coming from and what's making you feel unworthy to be here when you definitely are. And the last one, this is one I would recommend. As I said at the beginning, I'm not a trained therapist or counselor, and I would recommend working with a counselor through it if you think this might be kind of traumatic for you. I can say personally, it can be a powerful but disturbing experience to reflect on this. But if you reflect back on some of the most emotional events in your life, this could be positive or negative. So your highest highs, your lowest lows, like all the things you've gone through in your life, and you look back and think, okay, which of those memories are most powerful for you, whether good or bad? Which ones do you feel that emotion coming back? And then you ask yourself, what story are you telling yourself from those events? It could be things, sometimes you can get limiting beliefs from these past events, like, I can't handle this. I'm not strong enough for that. I'm not safe unless this. I can't be happy until X. I'm unlucky. I'm unworthy. I'm unlovable. Those are all messages that you can kind of internalize through past events, especially if they've been traumatic or negative. And so I found going through exercises like that and really reflecting and working through some of my life experiences and then identifying the beliefs that I've had have been helpful. Because once you figure out what those messages are, which you may not realize you're telling yourself, you can then start the process of working to rewrite your own narratives and changing your beliefs. Okay, bad headline number 2. Hopefully everyone is still sticking in here. No commercials, just going right to the next headline. So not everyone likes you. I hate to break it to you. I think this is especially hard for women, including myself. The point here is that if you're truly yourself, you are not everyone's cup of tea. We don't all like the same tea, right? If you're a chameleon, on the other hand, you're kind of wildly adjusting your personality and temperature to please and be accepted by those around you. You might feel liked, but you probably don't feel authentic. It's natural, of course, to do that to some extent. For those of us who go into the office on occasion, we don't wear the same clothes to work we wear on vacation. We don't talk the same way at work as we do with our friends. But you can take that to such an extreme that you really do feel like you're kind of an imposter everywhere, never yourself. and you're just kind of acting and behaving in a way to blend in and to avoid rocking the boat. I heard someone say recently that when you stop pleasing people, people are not pleased. And I think that's a fair statement and a good thing to keep in mind. So when you start acting out of your own truth, not to just please everyone around you, not everyone is going to love that, but you're going to have to keep working with your authentic self and leading the way you need to lead authentically. It's exhausting if you don't, and you just never feel comfortable and never feel like you can be the real you. And even more, you'll be the most successful and most fulfilled when in your working and personal life environment, the real you can shine through. So some questions for reflection here are, when do you feel like you're acting versus kind of living? What leadership styles feel natural to you? Feel fake? Thinking through that can help you really identify what are your natural styles and preferences, and then what you might be doing just to accommodate someone else's preferences when that might not be the best or most effective way for you to lead. Okay, this is the last bad headline before some good news. So this headline is, it's normal to feel like you've searched your career for a female role model that you can't find. The bad news is she is not out there. So it can be hard, I know, to envision a future where the dream of what you dream of creating and the dream of who you dream of becoming isn't there. It can be really frustrating and disappointing. I personally struggled with this quite a bit during the early part of my career. I felt like I was in search of a female partner who I wanted to become, whose practice was successful, but whose life also seemed balanced and healthy. And I could never really find who I was looking for, which made me feel honestly uncertain about whether I personally could create a sustainable path to a career in big law. Over time, I learned to look for inspiration instead of just one person in bits and pieces. So some ways that you can do that would be asking yourself, what are the best things you've learned from leaders and workplaces in your life? What are the patterns, styles, and behaviors that you want to avoid perpetuating? What are the worst things you've seen that you never want to do to someone? Which leaders have helped you throughout the course of your growing up, your educational life, your childhood? You can find leaders in your community and your workplace. So who's been helpful and how? How were they impactful? And then to the contrary, who was harmful? Who was not helpful at all? Who said things that stuck with you for inspiration and what you would want to embody or not, in a number of different ways can be helpful. Lastly, practicing gratitude, I think, is the most impactful way to look for inspiration. This will rewire your brain to find inspiration. So if you've never done this before, I strongly recommend giving it a try. You can write down 5 specific things that happened each day before you go to bed for which you're grateful. It takes 2 minutes. The things you write down for this to work and be the most compelling and effective have to be unique to that specific day. So you can't write, my kids every single day, even though of course we're grateful for them. Or your cat, can't write, love my cat, but can't write that. So it has to be something unique to that day, 5 things every single day. If you do that, go to bed, you will start rewiring your brain for the next day to look for those good things, to look for that inspiration. It will also, as someone who struggled with falling asleep, help you go to sleep much easier. It's a really, really nice way to go to bed. So I highly recommend that if you take away nothing else from this whole presentation, give gratitude practice a try. But those are ways you can look for inspiration if you're finding frustration of not finding the role model that you kind of imagine you want to be in your life. Okay, we've made it to the good news. So the good news is you can stop searching out there for that role model, that person, that vision. You can instead look in the mirror, or when the time comes, turn your camera on Zoom, give yourself a big smile. You are the person you've been looking for. You want to build the leader you can become, who you are capable of being, what you are capable of achieving, the legacy you want to leave, you know deep down the trail you were meant to blaze. You can break down more barriers, create opportunities, lead a successful, healthy, balanced life, pass on your infectious energy to others. And you can do that by leading authentically at work, in your personal life, and everywhere else. I don't think anybody here is at this conference by mistake. You're not in your family, your community, your friend circle, or your workplace on accident. So you can go and discover and become what you haven't found. All right, as I mentioned earlier, there's only one you in a world of 8 billion people. You are a unique gift to the world, but you can't share your gift if you reject or hide who you are. So what this means is that I prioritize personal growth and development. I work constantly to uncover and combat my insecurities and limiting beliefs. I will say personally, despite the fact that I've been very successful, I felt very out of place and uncomfortable on my first day of law school. I felt the same way when I was interviewing for law firms. Every time I feel like I don't belong here. Why are they even letting me in, right? That's so, even though I graduated with straight A's in law school, I was number one in my class, but even still, those insecurities, led to really unhealthy behaviors for me at work. At the start of my career, I had really no boundaries at all because I felt like I didn't deserve to be there. So I just worked constantly to kind of prove my worth or make myself feel better. And doing that to the detriment of my health, not sleeping, it was not great or sustainable. So now I try to fight the good fight every day for a healthy between my work and family. I honor my ambitious spirit that hasn't changed. It motivates me to work hard in school, to excel in work. And I'm also then passionate about creating jobs for people at the firm and opportunities for other people. I know my family, community, and friends and workplace need the real me to show up every day, just as yours do too. So I hope this conversation has been helpful. It's given you a lot to kind of reflect on and what you can do and what might be holding you back that you might not have realized.
Hey, my friend, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, be sure to rate, review, and share your biggest takeaway. And if you're wanting more, you can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. You can also get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or networking group near you. Or if you just need to access your membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Because here at Women Leaders Association, we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. That's all for today, my friends. Bye for now.